So it might seem simple to remove your turf or your sod with a turf or sod cutter, and you know, it really is simple, but there are some tips that I think will make it even simpler, and we're going to cover those today. I'm John Valentino, president of John and Bob's Corporation, and Chip Valentino is here. He's feeling very relaxed today because he used to have to mow the lawn. Now there's no lawn to mow. The whole garden is so much easier to maintain, and Chip is in appreciation of that. He feels like he can just kick back now. If you're like Chip and appreciate this style of no lawn garden, check out our other videos where we take you through a whole progression of how you turn a kind of a heavy water using garden into a low water using garden, which also translates to a lower maintenance garden. So the way I look at it, if you have the type of lawn that has roots and rhizomes that aren't easily killed and that when they remain in the soil can resprout, then you have to go through some mechanism to kill them before you try to remove them, because if you just remove them, they'll resprout. So everywhere in this garden where we knew we had Bermuda, which is a warm season invasive grass, we sprayed it with glyphosate, and that we did 2 applications, and that I think is important. Otherwise, you'll continue to get resprouting of that even if you remove it with a shovel or a sod cutter or a turf cutter or whatever. Where I knew I didn't have Bermuda, then I didn't spray it. I only had tall fescue, and I used only the turf cutter. That's a lot easier to remove just by physical removing a certain layer of roots and the grass itself. So that's the distinction here. Part of the lawn was brown for several months because we did 2 applications of the glyphosate, and then the rest of it was green right up until the day we used the turf or sod cutter on it. So if you don't want to spray, that's fine, and you can do so and still remove it, but only on if you have bluegrass or fescue or perennial rye or annual rye. Those kinds of grasses have roots that won't come back as easily as some of the warm season grasses, where even if you have a little piece of the root or a little piece of the lawn, it'll continue to resprout. The turf or sod cutter by itself, without killing the lawn first, is fine on the less invasive, the less rhizome dominant turf types, and we kind of had half and half here, so this is a really good example of where you can use a sod cutter or turf cutter, and where you should prepare for the sod or turf cutter with an actual killing of the lawn beforehand. Not only killing of the lawn, but killing of the roots, and that takes some time, usually more than 1 application. In this case, we did 2 applications about a month apart. In this garden, once we took the lawn out, we really didn't need to do any tilling or ripping because this is really light soil and not heavily compacted. If you're in a lawn that you think is heavily compacted, maybe a riding mower went over and over it and it's very hard, heavy soil, you might want to do some tilling after you remove the lawn, and that will help improve the exchange of air and water, and is not something you're going to do on an ongoing basis, but on a one-time basis it might be important if you think you have compaction or if you have very heavy soil. Absent those conditions, we only use our blend, which have kind of these underground tillers, biological underground tillers. We used a lot of blend. We used it in a couple of different applications during the progress of the project. So you either use blend or other organic products that build life in the soil, things like compost or earthworm castings, or you can use them all. What we're interested in doing here is building beneficial bacteria, protozoa, good nematodes, fungi, and those are really the key to healthy soil. So once we got out that turf, we started applying our blend and used it a couple of times during the process of putting in the irrigation and then planting the replacement plants and the corapia. And so we have a very well inoculated soil now, ready for these plants to take off in the spring. If you want to learn more about Blend and all of our products, click on the link in the description below. We're doing this video in January, so we haven't seen much regrowth yet. We did the initial killing of the lawn back in July and August, and then we took it out recently, just a week or two ago, and now in January there's very little regrowth because of the weather. Everything's kind of dormant. Weather is cool, soil temperatures are low, plants aren't really doing much. But as soon as it starts to warm up, even though we sprayed twice for the Bermuda and we tried to get the roots of the tall fescue, you'll begin to see here and there little sprouts. And the Carapia that we planted remains very tiny until we get a lot of warm weather. So you've got an opportune time that you need to pounce on, or you could have issues with a mixture of unwanted weeds like Bermuda mixed in with the Carapia. So it needs careful monitoring as the weather warms up. So you're not going to see much in January, probably not going to see much in February, but in our area in March you'll start to see some sprouts here and there, which is a very good time to either manually remove them and try to get the root, or spray them with some kind of weed killer. It could be a topical one, or it can be one that kills through the roots. So be vigilant. Check for those weeds as the weather warms. In last week's video, we taught you how to retrofit a sprinkler system to a drip system. And we asked you what your thoughts and feelings and experiences are with drip irrigation. And the winner of a free bag of Blend is... We're removing turf here, and maybe you've had some experience of trying to get rid of turf or other plants with difficulty or maybe with ease. Tell us about your experience in getting rid of plants or lawn, and if it's interesting or maybe even a little dull, we will give you a free bag of Blend to the one we deem the most worthy.